So for today's FNaF video, I thought that instead of ranting about terrible FNaF mobile games, talking about why Security Breach sucked, or calling out people who made idiotic reviews on FNaF, why don't we go and look back on a particular Five Nights at Freddy's game? So let's go back in time. To 2019. So, to this day, I will always maintain that 2019 was the best year for Five Nights at Freddy's. It was such a heartwarming year to veteran FNaF fans like myself, to see that FNaF was once again back in the spotlight after its brief death in 2018 and 2017. A lot of exciting FNaF news was constantly getting announced left and right. A AAA FNaF game was teased, a VR FNaF game was announced, a new book series was announced. It was just mind-boggling to comprehend. But amongst the exciting games that were announced, a FNaF game came out in that year, made in a collaboration with 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎. And that FNaF game was called Five Nights at Freddy's AR Special Delivery. And it sucked. So, my relationship with FNaF AR is quite a strange one. I was jumping with joy when I heard it being announced, and I immediately started playing it when I had the chance to download it from Google Play Store. But of course, I was a brain-dead 12-year-old back then, who had no knowledge of what a perfect game is.
You might even say he had a life.
So of course, my opinions about FNaF AR have changed massively. In this video, I'll be doing a full review of FNaF AR, discussing its issues, the legacy FNaF AR left behind, and why it ultimately failed. Use the timestamps to skip round to anything in the video that you're more interested in. Anyway, without further ado, let's look back on Five Nights at Freddy's AR. The good things. Okay, so I think before I rant about why FNaF AR sucks for 10 minutes or something, I feel like it would be fair to at least say some positives about this game, because there are quite a few of them, although not that much. So, the first thing I like about FNaF AR is its concept. I think it is such an impressive concept to have a FNaF game where the animatronics get to kill you in your own home, when the animatronics decide to actually do that and not crash your phone or load for an eternity, that is. Speaking of the animatronics, their designs are fucking fire. This is definitely one of the few things I like about modern FNaF. The detail to the designs for the animatronics have definitely gotten a lot better after FNaF Help Wanted, albeit most of the time. Let's see, what else is good? Staying on the topic of fire designs, I also like some of the designs for the skins, especially the arcade ones. I love me some good old retro Freddy. The lore emails were also pretty good. What else? Oh. Is that it? Well then, I guess that is another tick on the endless list of cancerous issues this game has. Let's get cracking. Why is FNaF AR a mess? Okay, now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. Why do I think FNaF AR is terrible? Terrible job! You stupid bitch. FNaF AR is plagued with issues. But I will say though, unlike Security Breach, it wasn't done intentionally. This was 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎's first try at horror game development, and there was some development hell behind it because the workers had to work at home thanks to our good old pal 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎. But am I still gonna rant about the game's issues? Of course I will. Cry about it. Number 1, the gameplay is messy, dull, and repetitive. Now again, I don't think the concept of FNaF AR is bad. I think the idea of a FNaF game all about defending yourself against animatronics in your own home is pretty cool in my opinion, especially for a horror game. It makes the experience more realistic. But when you actually play FNaF AR itself, the gameplay breaks all of that immersion. Particularly when the animatronics kill you by running through your walls because of the way the AR was designed. Staying on the topic of animatronics trying to be ghosts, the animatronics had this thing called a cloaking device, making it harder for the animatronics to spot. I get that it was just a mechanic to make the game harder, but in a horror game concept, it's just goofy. So what, does this Fazbear Funtime service just design animatronics to be invisible? What kind of sci-fi wacky magic is this? The sci-fi jerk-off in FNAF has got to stop. It has already been proven that every time there is this chunk of science fiction nonsense being sprinkled into a FNAF game, it just ends up being goofy and it doesn't make any sense in a story perspective. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive science fiction fan. But the difference here is that all of these sci-fi movies and franchises I like are meant to be in that genre. Five Nights at Freddy's, however, was never meant for sci-fi. It never has been. That is until Steelwall came along anyway.
Hi! Welcome to Steelwall Studios' Five Nights at Freddy's!
Yes, you can say that modern FNAF games take place in the future, but FNAF 3 had no animatronics built with free will or staff bots anywhere in this game, and it canonically takes place in 2033 for fuck's sake. It shows to you that FNAF can do perfectly fine without sci-fi elements, because FNAF was never meant to be a sci-fi horror game. Stop with the fucking sci-fi nonsense. Okay, I trailed off for a bit. Back to the topic. What else sucks about this shit game? Still staying on the topic of the gameplay, it was also really repetitive. I think when you play FNAF AR for the first 10 minutes, it's kind of fun. That is, if your phone will be able to load it properly, that is. But after that, it gets pretty dull very quick. Everything in the game was just finding the animatronics and zapping them. There was barely any unique strategies for the characters, not even the skins. They all had the same mechanics, and that made the game incredibly boring. Oh yeah, speaking of which, number 2, the skins were pointless. I can already tell I'm gonna get hate for saying that statement. The skins did have their fans, for some weird reason. If you liked the skins, then whatever, I don't care. I'm not saying that you were wrong for liking them. I personally liked a few of them, especially the Arcade Mayhem skins. But in my opinion, I don't get why they were liked by fans, and I'll explain why. So, when FNAF AR existed, there was a mechanic called the skin system, where it was basically a mechanic where the animatronics had the skins changed to a particular theme, like holidays, nature, retro, circus, etc., for a limited time, and they would be given to you as rewards if you defeated them. Now, I personally have had a dislike to them for a while now. In fact, all the way back in 2021, I made a rant video about why they sucked. And surprisingly, for a 2021 video of mine, my opinions have overall not changed. What I failed to properly explain in that video though was that the skins were just the same as the regular animatronics, with the same gameplay mechanics but with only a few bits of tweaking here and there. Like with Shrek Freddy, where he will kill you quicker if you stare at him too long. That's about as far as these skins went with gameplay mechanics. The laziness was just laughable. There was so many possibilities 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙍 could have done for the skins to make them worth the wait. Like more unique gameplay mechanics, different voices, and even new cosmetics to add to the endoskeletons. But they just ultimately threw them aside, and it made the gameplay even more boring. Oh, wow, a firework Freddy? I wonder if we're gonna have to find and set off as many fireworks in our house before he kills us, or... Oh, he just has a different charging animation, and he doesn't even appear in the Freddy Festival event. Wow, that was worth the wait, wasn't it? The skins were just worthless and anticlimactic. And also, in my opinion, most of them are just borderline stereotypes. Like, what Mexican FNAF fan is gonna look at a Day of the Dead skin and think, yeah, I can relate to them. I can relate to American animatronic mascots representing my country's culture. Yeah, they definitely did! So what caused FNAF AR to flop? Well, aside from everything I just talked about, I think the biggest reason why FNAF AR flopped was that it was a FNAF game that was way too ambitious. Like, an AR FNAF game where you could survive against animatronics in your own home? A FNAF game where you can interact with fans and send your own animatronics to your friends? It was such an ambitious idea, and 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙍 clearly tried to make the game as perfect as possible, only for COVID and greed to eventually kill it. FNAF AR was also made in the wrong time. In 2019, the novelty of AR in gaming had already fell off in favour of VR games. Only for mobile games at least. The reason why mobile games are popular is because they are easily accessible and portable. And the reason why AR mobile gaming couldn't work for most people was that 1, you needed to have a lot of storage space, and 2, you needed to have a decent phone camera. If you had an Android that didn't have a good internal storage, then you were basically going nowhere. Another reason why FNAF AR flopped was because of greed. FNAF AR wasn't actually intended to have microtransactions. They were only added in an update. And when they were added, hardly anyone had even purchased them. And the few idiotic people who did had ran out of the stuff that was there in the in-game shop to buy, allowing 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎 to begin pumping out microtransactions in every single update rather than trying to focus on new content. And, ironically, it made the game unprofitable, as many players got annoyed with the new microtransactions that were added. And even when 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎 finally tried to focus on new content with the Dark Circus Encore DLC, it was too late, and FNAF AR was abandoned, and later on removed from all online stores. FNAF AR was a FNAF game that had so much ambition, and 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎 clearly wanted to make this game as good as they could. I don't want 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎 to just leave FNAF AR in the dark till the end of time. I want to see 𝘼𝙏𝙍𝙊𝙐𝙎 improve and turn FNAF AR into something better. But do I see them ever doing that? No, of course not. But who knows? Maybe someday FNAF AR can come back.